Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. Today we are taking a look back at the Tier 7 Premium Royal Navy Battleship Battlecruiser Hood. So, the hood released a little while after I started to get into the Warships. It was almost 3 years ago now. Yeah, it will be 3 years in, 4 months? Yeah, it'll be about 4 months. It's been 3 years since I've really been playing Warships. Wow, how time goes. And about 2 years of that, I've been on YouTube. Look at time fly. Alright, so the hood, when she was released, she was absolutely everywhere because it's the hood, need I explain. And she was not the first premium I bought. First premium I bought was Turpitz. I got Hood a little bit later, and I didn't like her too much back in the day because she had that silly Royal Navy Battleship BB AP. Well, I just said Battleship and BB back to back. She had the silly Royal Navy BB AP, which for those of you that don't know, the Royal Navy Battleship AP has a much shorter fuse time than normal Battleship AP, which means it is very good against destroyers and cruisers, at least that's how it's marketed. But it's not the best against battleships, but you can still get decent pins in if you aim for less armored portions of the ship, like the bow, the stern, or if you know the layout of the ship's armor, anywhere where it's not as armored as where you would normally shoot at with a normal battleship. So, for example, if you have a normal battleship, I'll say the Iowa, and you shot at the Iowa Citadel, that would be obviously where you would want to shoot at. On the hood, you may not want to shoot there because it's relatively thick armor. If you're far away, the shells really don't have the penetration to get through it. For a while, the ship was like that, but some time ago, they changed the timer on the fuse and some other things too, and Hood has much better AP now. It's more along the lines of normal battleship AP, and she can happily Citadel battleships of her tier below quite easily, and sometimes higher tier battleships too in the right conditions. So Hood also came with a very, in my opinion, good gimmick. If you notice, she has a defensive fire consumable. Now, I don't think is there another battleship that has defensive fire? I think the Duke of York had it for some time or during testing, but just off the top of my head, I can't really remember or think of any other battleships that have the defensive fire consumable. Someone let me know in the comments down below if they do. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any right now. So, her defensive fire consumable was a very special one, where it gave her rocket launchers. Yes, Hood has rocket launcher. If you look atop the number 2, and I believe the number 3 turret as well, she has rocket launchers there. And in real life, these things didn't work. They were basically miserable failures, and they weren't anything special. But in Warships, since a lot of fantasy does exist in this game, things that were never really built, they work tremendously well. And in the old CV days, they would turn Hood's AA guns from this to this. In Hood, when that defensive fire consumable was activated was pretty much a no-fly zone, and I literally made it put up like a force field around your close range AA to where nothing was going to survive, even if you put it up against tier 10 carriers in a training room. It would still just absolutely shred the planes. Now, of course, it is only active for 60 seconds, which is a fairly long time, and it does have a 1 minute and 20-second cooldown time. So it was fairly balanced, but the thing was, when it wasn't active, Hood had okay AA back in the day, nothing really special. And today, in modern World of Warships, yes, that consumable is still very useful, but it's not as potent as it used to be. Now, don't get me wrong, it still is absolutely a shredder when that consumable is activated, but when it's not activated, Hood's AA really isn't that great anymore, just because of the AA changes and such. And, like I said, don't get me wrong, that consumable will still absolutely shred planes, but, I mean, the planes are unlimited now. So, while, yes, you are melting someone's planes, you're not having as big of an effect as you were back in the day, where it really cost them to try and go after the Hood. So much so where people would just outright avoid you altogether, which makes sense. And still today, carriers don't specifically go after Hood, and unfortunately in my couple hours just trying to record for this Hood video, no carrier games were found, go figure. So, still a useful gimmick, but not as powerful as it used to be, from what I've seen at least. Now, the rest of the ship. Hood is very fast for tier 7, gets up around 30 knots, and quite maneuverable, but she is also held back by a very large turning circle radius. She's kind of in the same situation as Vanguard. In fact, I run a Vanguard captain on Hood. They share the same captain. And this is my build right here. It's the same, like I said, exactly the same captain I have on Vanguard. There's my module build for Hood as well. And again, this isn't the ideal Hood commander build. It's just the captain that I throw in between Hood and Vanguard because it works well enough, and I don't feel like respecking him every time I go to switch captains out. So it's a fun ship still, I think. Does it need any adjustments for 2020? I mean, I think maybe they could decrease the reload time of her consumable from 1 minute 20 to maybe 1 minute flat, because in this day and age, you know, you activate the consumable, and in the time that it's cooling down, the carrier could potentially get 2 or 3 more salvos off on you, depending upon where they're at and what carrier it is and all that. But again, I don't really think it's really needed per se. It's just like, you know, maybe 10, 20 seconds could be taken off it. More than likely 10 would probably be well enough. Because again, back in the day, when you shot down their planes, the planes didn't regenerate. That was it. So I think maybe a bit quicker cooldown would work there. For the rest of the ship, I think the rest of the ship's quite fine. It is very much a battle cruiser. It is very squishy, but very maneuverable, just like the Vanguard. Now, unlike the Vanguard, it of course does not have 32 millimeters of bow armor because it's only a tier 7. So when you get up to tier 9, it hurts. It hurts a lot. Because even though you're a very maneuverable ship, if you're good at dancing, you'll probably live much longer. But still, if any big guns shoot at you at tier 9, or even tier 8, you're gonna feel it. Now, they did give Hood a Warspite heal, so there's that, but still, that's only gonna get you so far when, if you slip up, you're gonna get like a 14 or 15 or even like a 20,000 damage salvo if you show a little bit too much broadside. So, she's, you know, a typical tier 7. In terms of that, she's well balanced, I find, and her guns are much better than they used to be. They're not overly accurate, but they're not overly inaccurate either, because keep in mind, you have 8 15-inch guns at tier 7. So when you're top tier, you can dunk on a lot of ships with the Hood. Keep in mind, she's very maneuverable, very fast, and accuracy is workable. It's not the most accurate thing. It's not the most inaccurate thing either, because again, you do have 8 guns and they reload in 30 seconds, which is pretty decent for tier 7. So when you are top tier, you're running into a bunch of tier 5s, you're going to have your way with them fairly easily. Now, ironically, since they did give her that, what I would consider a buff to her her guns, her AP shells, she's not quite as potent at dealing with cruisers as she used to, because this used to be a very good ship for dealing with cruisers. But when you would be faced with a battleship, there wasn't a whole lot you could do. And I feel like this was a good change for the hood. If they didn't change the BB-AP versus DD's mechanic, I would feel like, it might be a bit better with her still having the light fuse, because that light fuse AP against even destroyers was pretty dang good, I'm not going to lie. But since they changed that and the AP went from being really only really good against cruisers and still okay against destroyers, I mean, it kind of loses that impact that it used to have. And I said this again with a lot of other British battleships as well, since they changed the way BB-AP works versus destroyers. I mean, why not just give it normal AP at that point? Because, I mean, sure, it's fun to blop on cruisers, but when your AP is only really good against cruisers and against destroyers, yeah, you're going to do a little bit more than the average battleship, but it's not that fantastic effect that it used to be. I mean, what's the point? It's good against one class and one class only, when it could be decent against cruisers and battleships with normalized AP. So I do think Hood has been changed for the better. And plus, she's actually just like Vanguard, and you guys know I play these ships not the exact way they're meant to be played. I usually play them fairly aggressively, but I mean, lately I've been trying to back away from that and play them more quote-unquote properly. When you get into a close-in brawl with the Hood and the Vanguard, I think they're pretty good at it. Not German good, but they're so dang maneuverable when you get to the side of a battleship of the equal tier and sometimes even above, depending upon what battleship you're facing. You can easily outmaneuver them, get to the sides, and blap them with 8 15-inch guns, which hurts any battleship you can meet. Even if you're going against a tier 9 battleship, you get at sides and manage to blap it, which is difficult to make happen because they have much bigger guns than you, but it can happen, and I've done it before. It's quite good. But realistically, in your average game, you're going to be sitting around, I mean, if you're a decent battleship player, like 80,000, 90,000 damage. I'm not going to lie, the guns aren't all that accurate, but they're not all that inaccurate either. So your average game in this current meta of people hanging back so far, it's going to be 80,000, 90,000 damage. It's roughly what I get in it, because, again, the meta is just sit back, snipe everybody. In the Hood, she's got decent range for a tier 7, but her guns at that range are by no means accurate. I think her max range is like 18.6 kilometers. And again, she's okay. She's not fantastic, not terrible. She's okay, but I do think she is a fun ship. She's maneuverable. She's got normal AP now. She's got that AA gimmick, which is basically a no you button when the carriers come after you, and that's always fantastic to see a squadron just melt in front of your eyes. So, is she worth getting? If she goes on sale, I'd say pick her up. It's the Hood after all. I mean, who doesn't want the Hood? She looks good. The model looks great. I gotta give them that. Of course, their models always look top notch, and the Hood is no different from that. So that's a look back at the Hood. Still a fun ship, not an overtly powerful ship, but an okay ship, but a fun ship altogether. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 8,000 subscribers now. We're almost only 900 subscribers away from that goal. As of me recording this, I think we're sitting around 7,092, 93 as of me recording this, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.